Hello, my name is Julie, and today a bracket is going to determine what series I keep and DNF. So if you are unfamiliar, I am in the middle of way too many series. I started off 2025 with 53 series I was in the middle of, and my major goal for this year has been getting that number of series down. I have been doing a Reels series where I update you every single month on how my progress is going, and as of this moment, I'm filming this at the end of October, I have 43 series I'm in the middle of, and I have read from and made progress in a ton of different series. There are only 20 series that I'm in the middle of that I have not read from this year and I'm behind on. What I've noticed, I did decrease the number of series that I started this year. That really helped. I closed out almost every single series that I could have done this year without repeating books. But the thing that has really decreased my number of series is DNFing series that I'm not interested in anymore. So what I am going to do today is I have taken out of the 43 series I'm in the middle of, I took the 16 series I think I am most likely to DNF, and I am putting them in a bracket. We are going to be doing double elimination because there's only 16 of them, and I don't want a book that had an unfair seeding to win or lose. I want to have that double elimination so it at least has two chances to fight for its life. But basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a lineup of two books. The book that I am more likely to DNF is going to win. So it's kind of an anti-bracket. The loser is the one that's advancing. I'm going to run through how I feel about the books, and this bracket is going to help me make my decision. Alrighty, here is my bracket. I have seeded this from 1 to 16 based on suggestions from other people on my YouTube, on my Instagram, and on the Discord server that I'm a part of whether they think I should continue on or not. So the higher up in the bracket, so the lower the number, the more people told me I should not continue on in the series. Lower in the bracket it is, so the higher number, the more people told me to continue on in the series. If there were ties, I did not do any metric to break them. I just kind of put them randomly together. Our first matchup is the series that most people told me to DNF and most people told me to continue on in. That is The Dark Tower by Stephen King and Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is so hard for me. Because here's the thing. The Dark Tower and Legendborn are two of the oldest series on my TBR that I'm not caught up on. The Dark Tower, I didn't really love the first book, and I think that's the general consensus, but I read this back in 2018, it's 2025, and I decided I want to read The Dark Tower before I die. I at least want to give it a real shot. I have like a 50-50 relationship with Stephen King. I think some of his books are great. I think some of his books are like, dude, what were you thinking? I know for a fact that I have to restart The Dark Tower if I'm going to continue on in it. And there's one other series on this list that I would definitely have to do the same thing. You could argue I would have to do that with Legendborn. I don't feel like it. I feel like I could read some summaries online and continue on. Do you think personally, if I would have to restart a series, does that count as me DNFing it? Because I would like to read it before I die, but I am not going to continue on in it anytime soon. Like, if you made me read one of those books right now, I would pick the second Legendborn book over The Dark Tower. But I am more likely to want to continue on in the Dark Tower series in the long term. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, if I left Legendborn unfinished, I would not be as, disappointed in myself in the long run. Here's my experience with Legendborn. I think I gave it like a 3.5 or something like that. This is a YA urban fantasy series that is set at UNC, so it is set in my state, even though it's my rival college. I will let you get away with this, Tracy Deonn. This is a modern Arthurian story. She is coming into contact with a group of people who are the descendants of Arthur and Merlin and etc. I have said that I would like to read something else that Tracy Deonn has written because I do think she's a good writer, and I love Bree. Anytime that Bree is by herself, I love it. I don't care about the Arthurian plot, which is ironic because it is what I went into the series excited about. I was just really annoyed by the boys that she interacts with. I don't care about the Arthurian part. I want to read the stuff that felt like Octavia Butler. That's what I wanted to read. And I've also heard that book 2 is not as good as book 1, but I think book 3 was getting good reviews. It came out this year, so the series is finished. It's only a trilogy. It's YA. I could probably get it really easily. I could get both of these really easily. If I made this which one you would make me read right now, I would rather read Legendborn. So I'm going to have the Dark Tower move on. I had to pause for like 10 minutes to figure out how this works. This is on the website Bracket HQ. I started making the bracket and then I had to create an account, and it didn't actually track that bracket I made to my account, so I had to make a second bracket. Everything's in the same place though, so we're saying Dark Tower is the winner of which I'm going to DNF. Next up, we have Winter's Orbit versus Dark Shores. So Winter's Orbit is a duology of companions, a sci-fi with a bit of romance. In the first book, there is an assassination. Because of that, there is a marriage that has to happen to let a treaty happen. And I was under the impression that it was the start of a new series that would be following these people, but it turns out it is 2 companion books, and there is no news of if the series is done or if there's gonna be more. So if I finish the series, I am going to say that that is it for it. Dark Shores is a YA fantasy series by Danielle L. Jensen. Our main character is from this like seafaring people, and then there's also this empire that's like Roman-ish inspired to my memory, and there is this island that the Roman people are trying to take over. And she ends up getting in with the Roman people, but she is trying to help the people of the island. I was invested in the characters and I like the relationship between the two. I don't remember the book that well. I was kind of wondering where the series is going to go from here, if there's going to be more challenges against the Roman Empire, because clearly they're set up to be the bad guys. But also, Dark Shores is not a popular series. It's hard for me to get my hands on it, and I don't feel like buying it. Winter's Orbit is the second book, is just available from my library, and it's only 1 book. So that means I am more likely to DNF Dark Shores, which is 3 more books, which the last one did just come out, than I am Winter's Orbit. Next up, we have the Sand Sea trilogy by Chelsea Abdullah versus the Singing Hill cycle by Neve Vo. So the Sand Sea trilogy, the first book I think came out in 2022. I read the first book in that series last year for my book club, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't invested in it. So it was a very action-based fantasy book that I think sacrificed on character development because of that. There was so much marketing behind that book that when it actually came out, it kind of petered out. But I knew some people who were big fans of that book. However, book 2 just came out earlier this year. Not nearly as many people are reading it as book 1. Like it's just not the numbers that you would expect given how popular that other book was. And also, it has a lower average rating. People are not liking it nearly as much. I know one person who I trust her reviews loves the first book, and she hated the second book. So that makes me pretty sure that I want to DNF this series. Then we have the Singing Hill cycle is a series of novellas. If I am right, I think there are 8 or 9 planned to be in the series in total. They are companions. They're all about the same character, but you don't actually really need to read them in order. I would like to. I've read book 1 and book 4. I did that because I was given an arc of the 4th book and I only had read the first one. I really enjoyed book 1. I don't really love novellas a lot of the time. I thought book 1 did a good job of being so short and still telling a good story, and I thought the writing particularly was very good. Book 4, I didn't super care for. I think it felt maybe a little bit different than book 1, but I didn't really care. And this is one of those that like, there's not a lot of reason for me to DNF it, even though I don't feel strongly about it, because they're all short, they're all companions, so I can wait a long time between them, I don't need to read them in order, blah, blah, blah. So I think that answers my question. I am more likely to DNF the Sand Sea trilogy. Then we have Red Rising by Pierce Brown and Written in the Stars by Alexandria Bellfleur. Red Rising, that is the other one of those books that has been the longest. I read the first book in 2018 and I actually did enjoy it. I think I gave it more than a 4.0 and I just didn't continue on in it. There was no reason why I didn't continue on in it at the time. And it just, because it got longer and longer, the less that I wanted to read the next books. So just like The Dark Tower, this is another situation in which were I to continue on in the series, I would have to start over. And if you're telling me, okay, I have to do that, does that mean I DNF? I asked my Instagram this and they're like, no, if you're planning on continuing, it's not DNFing, you're just rereading it. I'm like, okay, but I have to start over. To me, that's kind of DNFing. I don't remember well enough what happened in book 1. I just know that I enjoyed it. I know people like the later series better. Versus Written in the Stars, there's only 2 romance series on this list. This was one of the first adult romance books that I read, and it is companions as usual. It all takes place in Seattle, and the main kickoff is that there is this new dating app or dating website that is surrounding nerdy things, and I didn't really care for that part. There were things that I liked about the book. Like, I did think there was chemistry between the characters and everything, but there was a lot of cringe to happen in the book. And I think that it was very much like a Hallmark type plot that didn't like feel very true to life. Book 2 in this series is the only male-female romance in the series, and it has bad reviews. But the third book in the series that is female-female, just like the first book was, has pretty good reviews, and I've heard that it is childhood friends to lovers, which is something that I can like. Here's a thought. I could just not read the second book in the series. I could read the third book, and if I like it a lot, I can read the other one. But did I really like the first book enough? I'm not reading a lot of romance lately, and I'm like, why would I return to an author that didn't do enough for me to get a 4-star? This is hard because it's two different types of DNFing. Like, oh, I was invested in the book, but now I have to restart. And then written in the stars, it's like, did I even like it that much in the first place? So if you made me read the next book in one of these tomorrow, I would read Written in the Stars because I don't have to actually prep for it. Red Rising is more likely to be DNF'd, but I'm sure that Written in the Stars is going to get out of here. Then we have The Empire Without End by Emery Robin. This is one of the most recent books I've read. This is a space opera book that is a retelling of Cleopatra, Antony, and Caesar. It very much follows the history from what I've seen so far. It is a very long book that is slow and doesn't have a lot of plot, even though it calls itself a space opera, which was really confusing to me. I was really invested in the way that the characters interacted with each other and pointing out the different historical moments that were going on. But like the politics plot of it all, I feel like it's not actually shown to the reader. It's just kind of like a backdrop. It doesn't actually feel real or built out. It's kind of relying on you being like, oh, well, I know what the Romans are like. Oh shit, it's against Between Earth and Sky. This is why I did double elimination, because some of these matchups are so difficult. I read Black Sun last year and I gave it a 4-star. I really liked it. It is a high fantasy inspired by pre-Columbian America, and there are all of these different groups that are kind of colliding on this one moment where there's going to be a total eclipse of the sun on the winter solstice. And we see a bunch of people in the first book like moving in on one point. They think something bad's going to happen, and there is a person who is planning to do an attack when that happens. It's multi-perspective. It's really unique. There aren't a lot of books that I've read that have the same kind of like tone or vibe to it, on top of it being inspired by a culture that isn't necessarily represented in fantasy a lot of the time. I really like book 1. I listened to book 2 like 2 months ago or something like that, and man, was I just not invested. One of my favorite characters from the first book, they absolutely shot her in the foot, and like her entire plotline was just being sad that her love interest wasn't there anymore, and I was like, are you kidding me? One of my main things about this series is that the first 2 books are way too short, but I have seen that the third book is much longer, so that might actually solve my problem. Both of these series, I am 1 book away from finishing them. Between Earth and Sky, I am going to have an easier time getting that from the library. I've had multiple people tell me they did not like the sequels as much as they liked the first book in the series. But book 3 has a much higher rating and it's longer, so maybe it'll have time to do the things that I didn't like. But nobody's even read Empire Without End, so who knows how people feel about that other thing. So I just don't think I have a great grasp on either of the worlds in here. I'm going to say that I would feel more bad about DNFing Between Earth and Sky. So I am going to say Empire Without End is going to continue on. If I haven't showed you already, this is the losers bracket at the bottom that we're going to do double elimination in. Then we have the Bloodsworn Saga by John Gwynne and the Kingdom Trilogy by Bethany Jacobs. Bloodsworn Saga is a very popular Viking Nordic inspired fantasy. It's another one of those like everybody collapsing on one point thing. We have a mother whose child was kidnapped. We have a princess who's trying to like make her own name, and a former slave who are all like joining different bands that are all trying to get to this place that's the graveyard of the gods. I have heard from a YouTuber that I trust that they didn't really like book 1, but they really liked the sequels. And I've heard really, really good things about the sequels, but I also heard good things about book 1. And I did not care about book 1. Me and one of my friends in real life read this book around the same time, and neither of us cared about the characters. Like, how do you not make me get attached to a mother who is looking for her child? maybe I could give the second book a shot. Then the other one is the Kingdom series, Bethany Jacobs. This is another space opera book. I read this last year for my video of reading BookTuber's best books of 2023. This one was one, I don't think I gave it enough attention. I think I was trying to get through this book really quickly, and there was a lot that I wasn't necessarily paying attention to. There is this like order that's part of the Empire, and there was a person who rebelled. We are following people who are trying to track down that rebel. And at the same time, there's a backdrop of this specific ethnic group being genocided, essentially. And our main characters are kind of realizing what the reality of that is. There wasn't anything that really surprised me about the plot of finding that out. There was almost like a bait and switch. There was something else that there was going to be a plot twist about. And I was like, oh goodness. Both of these books are ones that I felt like I should have been more invested in than I was. But here's the thing. The Bloodsworn Saga, I'm going to have a much easier time getting my hands on, and also there's going to be more information online for the things that I've forgotten. So even though I didn't really care about the Bloodsworn Saga, I do think the second book in the Kingdom series actually has a lower rating, so I think I'd be more likely to DNF the Kingdom series. Then we have Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan versus Clover Lake by Ashley Herring Blake. That's fun, it rhymes. So Legend of the First Empire is a fantasy series. It's 6 books. I also read it in that same video I just mentioned for BookTuber's Best of 2023. And that series is a prequel series to a series I haven't read. But like it takes place like thousands of years before, so it doesn't actually matter that you read them out of order. But it is like taking place, I want to say it's like Bronze Age, but there's this like threat that's coming into this small village. One of our main characters is trying to mobilize the town to try to defend themselves against these terrible monsters. And nobody's really listening to her. Other people are trying to grab power and everything. There's elves and stuff. I listened to this on audiobook and I was pitched this book as being such like a dramatic epic series, and I swear to God nothing happened in this book. Got rid of my Audible subscription, so I no longer had it for free because it was included with the Audible subscription. So I was like, oh, I'll just DNF the series. And it turns out not only does my library have the audiobooks, they have the immersive audiobooks. What are they called? Graphic audiobooks. And I was like, okay, maybe if I was told the story in a different way, I would be more invested in it. Then we have the Clover Lake series by Ashley Herring Blake. This is the other romance series on the list. This is the only series on this list that I am not behind on. I am actually caught up. It is only one book. It started this year. I've read the entire Bright Falls series, and I've read Girl Made of Stars. I have Make the Season Bright over here, and I'm planning on reading it before the end of the year. In this book, we have a main character who's lived in a small town her whole life. She tried to get out once. Her father had an accident, and she had to come home and take care of her much younger sister, and now her sister's going to be graduating. Friends are trying to push her to actually pursue her passions. Meanwhile, there was this girl that she had an interaction with. They were 13. They like really had a connection. That woman turns out to be the daughter of 2 famous people, and she's trying to do her acting career. The movie is going to be taking place and the 2 of them reconnect. I think this is my least favorite of Ashley Herring Blake's romances. I also thought the side characters were really annoying, and I didn't like what type of conflict these 2 characters had, even though like I felt the chemistry between the 2 people. So that was enough for me to be like, oh, I would continue on. And I've had 3 hits from her before. So I think I would rather continue on in Clover Lake because it is a companion series. I'm already caught up. So Legends of the First Empire is continuing. Then the last matchup, I have the Roots of Chaos series by Samantha Shannon and The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. Roots of Chaos started out with Prior of the Orange Tree. It was supposed to be a standalone, and then she's like, never mind. And I really liked that Prior of the Orange Tree was a standalone, and I thought it did enough considering it was a standalone. But if it was going to be a series, why wouldn't you do more with it? So the other book, A Day of Fallen Night, is a prequel. I didn't like it as much. I gave it like a 3-star. I just thought it was a rehash of the original. And now, in 2025, there is a novella. It is 270 pages, but the other books are like over 800, 900 pages. So it's kind of like Rogue One. It's taking place directly before the original book, and I don't have any interest in reading that book. I don't care. If there was a 3rd proper book coming out in the series, I would not rule out reading it. So what I could say is I could just ignore the novella and say I'm caught up, or I could just stay behind. So if you have been following my real series, you might know that I DNF'd Roots of Chaos because I asked Instagram, hey, I don't want to read this novella. Should I DNF the series? And people were like, yes. And I realized that there was a series on my list that is by an author who I don't support her views and I don't want to publicize her stuff on my channel anymore, but I owned the next book. And I realized I don't want to read that book. I thought I would just like read it and not post about it on my channel, but I really just don't want to read the book. I decided to swap them out. So this is a Hail Mary for Roots of Chaos if I continue on with it. Then we have The Witcher by Andrzej Sapkowski. I watched the first season of the TV show before I read the book, and I really enjoyed the TV show. Then I read The Last Wish, and I liked it. I read the second short story collection, and I did not like it. And I just read the first novel in the series this year, and I just didn't get anything out of it. There was nothing that stuck. It felt like there wasn't a lot that was going on. And I just like didn't really care about the characters. I also don't love how this author writes women. But I think this is a pretty easy matchup that I would rather DNF The Witcher than Roots of Chaos. So these are going to be our next matchups. So let's go down to our double elimination. So these are all the ones that I said I'm more likely to continue on in. Legendborn versus Winter's Orbit. I would rather continue on in Winter's Orbit. It's only one more book and it's a companion. That was a pretty easy one for me. So that means Winter's Orbit is getting eliminated, even though I can admit that like I'm wrong about Legendborn. I can say that. I can admit that I'm in the wrong and that other people loving this book, like, good for you. I wish I loved the Arthurian plot. I want to read something else by Tracy Deonn when she publishes something else. But like, Winter's Orbit is going to be no sweat off my back to finish it, and I might finish it before the end of the year. So Legendborn is moving on. Winter's Orbit is officially out of here. I'm going to continue. We have Singing Hills versus Written in the Stars. Both of these are companion series that I have decided I could read out of order. Actually, both of these series, the library does not have all of the books, so I have the same amount of ability to get the books. If you made me read one of these books today, I would rather read the Singing Hills cycle. So I'm going to say Written in the Stars is moving on. Then we have Between Earth and Sky and the Bloodsworn Saga. To me, this is kind of another easy one. I would rather read Between Earth and Sky because I did like book one, and I only have one more book, and I think I have hope that the next book would be better. Bloodsworn Saga, after only one data point, I really didn't like it that much, so I would rather continue on with Between Earth and Sky, so Bloodsworn Saga is moving on. Then we have Clover Lake versus Roots of Chaos. Okay, this is the only hard matchup we have here. Both of these books, the most recent, the book that is coming out next, or the book that just came out, I don't have a whole lot of interest in reading. So very similar reasons why I would not want to continue on in the series. I didn't like the side character that the next book's going to be about, and I don't really care about the novella. I would rather try out that next book. So I think I'd rather continue on with Clover Lake, so I'm gonna move Roots of Chaos on. Let's go to my ones I might DNF. Dark Tower versus Dark Shores. That's funny. Dark Tower is the #1 seeded. So many people told me not to read Dark Tower, that it gets really disappointing as it goes on. But here's Dark Shores. I don't have great access to this series. I didn't really feel great about either of the first books in these series. Dark Shores is also YA, which is something I'm not really reading anymore. So I thought this would be difficult, but I actually think I'm more likely to DNF Dark Shores than I am the Dark Tower. Then we have the Sandsea Trilogy or Red Rising. Oh, that one's difficult. What about this restarting thing? Sandsea Trilogy I read recently enough that like I would not have to restart the series or anything. Like I wouldn't have a problem really remembering what was going on, but I don't feel strongly about it, and like people aren't really liking the second book. And it's probably going to be a long time before the next book comes out. Like if you made me reread Red Rising right now, or read the next book in the Sandsea Trilogy, I think I would rather reread Red Rising. I'm going to say that the Sandsea Trilogy is moving on. Then we have Empire Without End or The Kingdom, which is interesting because both of these are space opera type books. While both of these, I'm kind of like what's going on about some of it. I think I had a greater grasp on Empire Without End, partially because of the history. There were things that I was really excited about, but I definitely think in the interim between reading now and having read the first Kingdom book, that there's less that I'm excited about. I think the second book has gotten worse reviews and everything. So I think I'm more likely to continue on in Empire Without End, especially because it is only a duology. I only have to read one book versus 2 books for the Kingdom trilogy, which I believe the 3rd book is coming out in December. So I'm going to say Kingdom. Then we have Legends of the First Empire versus The Witcher. So one of them I have 1 data point, and one of them I have 3 data points. One of them is much more lauded. I think the only reason The Witcher is popular in America is because of the video games. I don't know what happened with the show, but people didn't like how it ended. And like people don't actually seem to like the books, even people who tend to like this sort of book. So we're gonna move The Witcher forward and say I'd rather DNF that. Let's move down to the losers bracket again. We have Legends of the First Empire versus Legendborn. Which of them do I think I'm actually more likely to like? Legendborn. I think I'm more likely to like Legendborn than Legends of the First Empire. Like Legendborn, I think I gave like a round of 4, like maybe that. Legends of the First Empire was a flat 3, so I think I'm more likely to read Legendborn. So Legends of the First Empire is moving on. Everybody can cheer, I'm not DNFing Legendborn today. I can hear Bria just like cheering in the background. Empire Without End versus Written in the Stars. That's also difficult because they're so different. They're so massively different. There's one book left, but it's big and it's slow. The other one's really short romances. I don't necessarily have to like remember the previous one. I think there's so many other romances that I would rather read before Written in the Stars versus like I really liked the historical elements of Empire Without End. Red Rising versus the Bloodsworn Saga. If you made me read the next book tomorrow, which of them would I rather read? I don't think I would have to reread the book to remember what happened in the Bloodsworn Saga, so I think I'm going to say Red Rising. Red Rising is moving on, that I'd be more likely to DNF it. We have The Dark Tower versus Roots of Chaos. Oh, I didn't expect those two to be going up against each other. If you made me read one of them tomorrow, I would read Roots of Chaos. This is really making me make decisions. This is why I'm so particular. If you see me, like I'm always doing stuff with stats, I'm always doing stuff with numbers. I like go out to eat and I'm like, what would you rate your meal? I'm such a numerical person because like I am so indecisive that I want to have data. And like doing something like a bracket actually makes me think long and hard. And having like a timer on me because I'm filming this, like that sort of thing. It's actually really helpful for me to make these decisions. I would rather continue on with the Roots of Chaos. So Dark Tower is moving on. Back up to the top. These are the ones who have not been defeated before. Dark Shores by Danielle Jensen or the Scifi trilogy by Chelsea Abdullah. I think I feel similarly about these two series. I had things that I really, really liked about Dark Shores. And also Dark Shores is by an author that I've enjoyed before. I've heard nobody talking about the Dark Shores series, but I've only heard not great things about the sequel to the Scifi trilogy. So I think I'd rather read from the Dark Shores series. So Scifi is moving forward. We've got the Kingdom series versus The Witcher. It would be so much harder for me to find information about the Kingdom, to remember what was going on. I've had such a negative experience with The Witcher that I think I would want to DNF The Witcher. Okay, move down to the bottom. We got Legends of the First Empire versus Written in the Stars. Written in the Stars, I feel like I'd be less likely to DNF because I can hold out for a long time. I don't have to read it anytime soon for me to remember what was going on. If you made me read one tomorrow, I'd rather try out the third book in Written in the Stars. So I'm gonna say that Legends of the First Empire is moving on. Oh wow, those two oldest books on my series, we have Red Rising and Dark Tower. If you made me read one tomorrow, I would continue on with the Dark Tower because that is like an accomplishment that I've set in my life that I would like to finish the Dark Tower sometime. I would love to try out the Dark Tower. And the reason I have not continued in the Dark Tower is not because of disinterest, it's because I own so many other Stephen King books and I want to own the Dark Tower, that I want to get through my Stephen King backlist so I can get to the Dark Tower. And also, it was really short, the first book. There's going to be a lot of information online. I would definitely be able to, revive my stuff in it. And maybe I would DNF of the next one, but I think I'd be more likely to DNF Red Rising than I would the Dark Tower. Let's do this one again. Dark Shores versus Legends of the First Empire. Oh my god, I don't know. I don't know about the rest of the series, but I know for sure that the next book in the Legends of the First Empire is available from my library, and I do not think the next books are available from my library for Dark Shores. And I don't want to pay for either of these series. I just checked, and the Legends of the First Empire series is available from my library. The Dark Shores series is not. I would have to check my other library systems that are not local to me to see if they have the audiobooks or anything, but that was the whole reason that I did not continue in Dark Shores, is because I listened to the first book on audiobook from the library, and the library didn't have the rest of them. So I would rather read Legends of the First Empire for free than pay for Dark Shores. So Dark Shores is moving on. The Kingdom versus Red Rising. I just don't feel strongly about the Kingdom at all. I think there was stuff I really liked in Red Rising. I can't really think of stuff that I really liked. I think it would be really hard for me to find the information that I need to be able to continue on in the Kingdom series. There was some stuff I was confused about. There was a perspective that I just didn't care about. I didn't make it full screen, sorry. I think I'd rather DNF the Kingdom trilogy. So now we are on our top 4 on either bracket. So 2 of our series have no losses and 2 of our series have only 1 loss. And I decided that I would definitely want to DNF the series that wins this bracket, but I might DNF more than that. Let's stay down here. Dark Shores versus the Kingdom. I also don't know that I have access to the Kingdom series. So I just checked, and my local library system only has the first book in the series available from the library. So both of these are books that I really don't have access to. I think I would be more likely to pay for an author that I've liked before. So I think The Kingdom, I'd be more likely to DNF The Kingdom. The Witcher or Sand Sea. So we have a series that I've tried multiple times and not fully gotten along with. It was one that people told me I really would not like, versus Sand Sea, which it's just not popular anymore, but fans of it aren't really liking it. I think both of these are series that I'd be cool with DNFing. I would rather DNF The Witcher. I at least had a fun enough time with the Sand Sea trilogy. So now we have each one that has only been eliminated once, Sand Sea and The Kingdom. Both of these are books that I read at a time where I was trying to get through books really quickly and I was pushing myself too hard and I wasn't necessarily paying attention to them fully. I think The Kingdom would probably have better themes, but Sand Sea trilogy, like, I might have more fun with. Partially because I'd be caught up. I think I'd rather read the Sand Sea trilogy than the Kingdom trilogy. I'd rather DNF the Kingdom trilogy. And so now our final count, would I rather DNF The Witcher or the Kingdom trilogy? I think The Witcher has proved itself enough that it's not something that's going to be for me, that I would rather DNF The Witcher than the Kingdom series. So that is my winner. I am going to be, as of right now, DNFing The Witcher. It doesn't feel great because that is a series that I had like hyped up in my mind. I really liked the first season of the TV show. If I was ever good at video games, I'd be interested in playing the video games. But I just don't think that it is really aligning with my reading taste. There's not enough happening in this series that I'm actively really excited about to continue. And I think that I could also DNF the other 3 series. All of these are series that it's all first books in series that I gave around a 3.5. That is a couple less series that I'm in the middle of. So here were my original stats before this video, and here are my stats now. Honestly, pretty proud that I was able to do this, and I think this bracket format was actually a really good way for me to open my eyes about which of these series I feel strongly about or don't feel strongly about. So thank you so much for watching. If you'd like to see more from me, you can hit subscribe, hit the bell to find out when I make new posts or videos. And if you'd like to find me anywhere else on the internet, you can find me at the links in the description. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.